Hi everyone, it's been a while since I have done a vlog with you, and I thought this is the perfect time of year to do it because we're rounding up the year. We're trying to remember, I don't know if you're the only one that this happens to, where I sit back and I am actually trying to remember, what did I knit this year? Fortunately, between the website and all of the patterns that are up and Ravelry and the fact that they're all recorded in there, I can go back and see all of the things that either I knit or we had re-knit for stone stitches. So between that, I won't show you down here, but there is a mountain of knits that I want to share with you today. We thought the best way of revisiting the year was to kind of put it into little families. So we will begin with the knit along family. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know we do both a mystery knit along and 2 garment knit alongs throughout the year. So this year we began with our mystery shawl knit along, which was green cluck. So let me hold this one up. I really loved some of the finished green clucks that came out, and I'm rather fond of the one we have here as well. So this was one which was a mixture of a fingering weight yarn, knit from the side, little tip, all the way over here, and you've got a lace weight fluffy mohair going through it, and you're alternating between drop stitches, here garter stitches, a little bit of short rows just to make it a little wider as you go up, and then finishing off with this butterfly stitch pattern and edging. So very wearable shawl, and this was how we started off the year with the very first of our mystery knit alongs. So that is number 1. Next knit along we had was for the spring knit along, which was Torque, where we were looking at Gansey stitches. We did 2 versions of it. We had a long sleeve version of, this is the one that was in Nua Sport. So it's top down with the saddle shoulder, Gansey inspired. It's obviously not a true Gansey pattern, but the stitch patterns are Gansey inspired. So from side to side across here, then worked from the top down, V-neck on the front, and the sleeves are picked up around the saddle shoulder, work back and forth with the short row shoulder shaping. So this is our long sleeve version, and our short sleeve version was done in BioBalance. So this seemed like a really good one for warmer weather because it's short sleeves, and BioBalance is a mix between cotton and wool. So very light, really comfortable to wear. Most of it is going to be the same, with the difference being that when you come to the sleeves, you knit just the first little section of the short rows, and then you finish off with your I-cord bind off. So very wearable top and really nice for the summer. So that was our first garment knit along for the year. And if you have been watching us for the last couple of months, you will know that the most recent knit along we had was this one, the Saoirse from the autumn. So again, we had 2 versions. We've got long sleeve version and a soft sleeve version, short sleeve version. There was a 3rd option as well in Nua worsted. So each one of these created a really different effect. This one is in cumulus. You can see it's very light and airy, and actually still gives the gauge, which is just incredible. Nua worsted had an option which just had an open cowl, and both of these then have got a deeper cowl neck. So this one was knit and bloster from the top down. You can see you've got this ripple stitch pattern in the front and down the sleeves. You've got raglan shaping with garter in the middle and slip stitches on each side. So this one's super cozy to wear. This one is a lovely layered piece if you're somewhere where you just want a little bit of extra warmth, or you want to look dressed up but you don't want to overheat and you want to wear your hand knits. So that's where I end up using this one. I use it a lot when I'm teaching. So this is our first section, and next we're going to have a look at some of our beginner knits that we did this year, combined with baby knits. All right, next let's take a look at our beginner knits and our baby knits. So this year we really wanted to introduce new knitters to garment knitting because we're huge fans of knitting garments here, and sometimes it can be kind of intimidating because you've got the pieces bigger and also you've got just more things going on. So if you're a new knitter, you could be perhaps very worried about sizes and just the volume and whether you're going to get it done. So we did a couple of things. We introduced pairings of, I'm going to put this to the side here. We introduced pairings of baby and adult sweaters. So if you're completely new to garment knitting, what that actually means is If you want to learn all of the bits and pieces that go together with it, then you can start with the baby knit, and then when you know what you're doing, you can comfortably go on to the adult version. So the first one of these that we did is Amara. So this is the baby Amara, and the workshop knits through this. So it's a basic plain vanilla top down raglan shoulder. So it starts at the top, everything's done in one piece. You've got very simple raglan increases, knit the body down and the sleeve down. The yarn we use for these is Gilliatt, because it's not too expensive, it's really wearable, and it's a nice yarn for garments, and it knits up a little faster because it's kind of strange. It's hard to describe the weight. I would probably put it as a worsted or an Aran weight, even though when you pick it up, it doesn't look like it should be, because it blooms and it opens up and knits a little bit more loosely. So it means that it's not too heavy to wear, but it doesn't take forever to knit. So that's the child version, and I'm kind of fond of this color. This is the adult version in pink. Very same again, it's just a bigger size. So that's the first of our beginner baby come adult. The next one is for Nida, and this is one where if you really want to do it quickly and you're a little nervous about doing something in the round, because this is one that's knit in pieces. So it's a chunky yarn and it's knit in pieces from the bottom up. So you've got your front and back and sleeves. So the baby version is actually super cute. And the adult one is a particularly good one for cold weather, because you can see it's a lot more chunky, heavy and very warm. So very, very good one for cold weather, and if you are not sure you want to do seamless knits. And this may be one of my favorites from the year, because this color is just so great. This is, you may have come across it before. I had the very first version of this as an adult one, and it's called Citrus Dream, and this is the baby Citrus Dream. It comes in baby all the way up to age 10. It's a top down raglan. It's got, it's moved a little bit further out, so slightly more refined raglan shaping. It's got a slight scoop neck, and it's knit from the top down. It's in a lighter weight yarn, so this one perhaps is one step up from the other ones where it's a heavier yarn, so you're going to knit it faster. The construction is straightforward. It's just the fact that the yarn is a little thinner, so it will take you a bit longer to knit. But the adult version was from several years ago. This is brand new, combined with the workshop, and this is the Life in the Long Grass singles it was knit with, and it's just the happiest color. So that is the next section. After this, we're going to move on to, let me have a look. I think we'll take a look at some of the ones that I've knit for other things, for not for my clubs, but for other people's master classes and for books. So that's where we're going to go next. So some of the patterns that I did for other people and for other businesses this year were not necessarily knit this year, but they were released this year. So one of the ones that I was really happy to be part of was Woolly Wormhead's new book on short row colour work. And the pattern I did for that was Calathea. So let me show you this. This was in Malabrigo Rios. And you can probably see it's a fairly bright contrast of pink and a dark grey. And so what this was is it's using Woolly Wormhead's combination of colour work and short rows. So I've done a little bit of that before. While I've done lots and lots of short rows, I haven't really done a lot of building motifs with short rows. So it was kind of fun to introduce it in the scarf. So you've got one particular segment that gets repeated and you're just alternating between colours. But it's a good way to practice the technique. And there's some other really beautiful patterns in this book. So if you would like to become a master of short rows combined with colour work, then this is a good one for you. You may have heard me talk through the year about Knit Stars. So with Knit Stars, as well as doing the masterclass and talking about cables through the masterclass, I did an actual set of patterns for them. So it was the A-Scone pattern. It's the same stitch pattern in them, difference being that this one is a scarf and this one is a blanket. And it was, the whole club was, our masterclass was all about reversible short rows. So with the reversible short rows, what that happens is it doesn't matter which side you're looking at, it's going to look the same on both sides. So it was it was a technique again that I have used before, but I haven't revisited in a very large scale project. So it was really good to do a deep dive into this. And the yarns we used for it are Blosta. This is the Barak color in Blosta, and this is a brand new one, Ross, that we introduced just for Knit Stars, which will be it'll be a year from now, you'll be able to get some of this on our website as well. But for now, it is a Knit Stars exclusive color. So they are, next year, in a year's time, you can find those on the website. So next up, we're going to take a look at our clubs and some of the patterns that we did for the clubs this year. So here's my little stack of club patterns. 2 clubs we're doing this year. We have the Seasons Club, which it goes through quarterly. There's over the course of the year, there's been several other designers working on it, but the one that I was involved in was the summer one. And for the summer, we were looking at embroidery and how you can embroider your knits. And that again was something that I hadn't done before. I had done little bits of embroidery, but I'd never actually worked it on my knits. And I was trying to figure out a way how I can introduce embroidery that felt like me, that it was like interesting graphic embroidery rather than overly floral. And so the Clodagh, scarf and neckerchief were where we came with this. So the base yarn is Bichet et Boucher, they're petite lamb's wool, and it's really light and just gorgeous to knit with. And we use fibre spates embroidery thread in this. You can see it's hand-dyed embroidery thread. So this basically, it's like a little sampler going through different kind of stitch patterns you can do in it. Let me hold it up. So we've got the big middle section is stockinette stitch, and you've got your embroidery running on both sides, and it is very, very lovely to wear. The neckerchief was one that it's designed to tie around your neck, and we wanted something a little bit more graphic. So what I used for this was a complementary color of the Bichet et Boucher wool. So it's a little bit thicker than the embroidery thread, but you can see how that actually can create all sorts of interesting vertical couching, zigzags with it, and just, again, really light, comfy to wear. I would suggest that this would make a lovely gifting pattern because it's a small little thing, but it's really interesting to look at. So next club is our Celtic Knits Club. Again, I'm not doing all of the patterns in it, but I started at the beginning of the season with the shirkin set, where I had a hat and a pair of mitts. So the mitts, I'll start with the mitts. The inspiration for the Seasons Club was islands, and so when I was thinking of islands, it was often contrast, looking at the waves running up onto the island versus the actual cliffs of the island. So the idea behind these is this looked like a wave pattern running up that you had in the front of the mitts. These are in the Jas yarn, which is a merino mohair blend. And the hat has a combination. So on this side, you have the same pattern that you have on the mitts, which has got these wave effect with these little fishtail cables running up each side. And then on the front, you've got a staghorn cable. So it's turn it the right way around, big vertical cable that decreases up across the top that really kind of feels a little bit like a mountain that your waves are butting up against. So that's why you've got 2 different sides to the hat to mimic the double sides of your islands. And the final one from the actual club section that I did was the Bera sweater, which I'll hold this up for you here. This is the front of it, and here is the back of it. And I had so much fun knitting this because I love big chunky cables and really rope-like intertwining cables. And I think you really get that with this sweater because of the fact that you have 3x3 cables that twist back and forth. It looks more complicated than it is. It's one of those ones where I think because the cables are so big, it gives you really big dramatic cables as you're going through with it. Set-in sleeves for this work from the top down, where you've got your cables introduced down the sides as well. So this is a very, very cozy wearable sweater. If you like your cables and you like them big and chunky, then the Bera sweater, which is no longer in the club, it's now an individual pattern. So if you want to get yourself this pattern or the workshop, it's available. Next we're going to take a look at reknits through the year. So a lot of these were done by Magali. I think some of them I have done and the rest were Magali, but there was a few that we worked throughout the year where we thought we would really like to introduce the same sample that had been done a few years before, either in a new yarn or in a new color. So let's look at those next. All right, here's our reknit pile for the year. And the one I'm wearing is actually the first one I should remember to talk about. This is Dirkla, and it's a super wearable pattern. It is, the first one was done in a marled color, so I still love the color, but it does limit what you can wear it with. This one is done in Ghoul, which I think is one of the most wearable colors, because I'm a big grey fan anyway. I tend to wear a lot of greys and blacks, so this one you can kind of put with anything. So that's the first of the reknits done by Magali. This one was also done by Magali. And this one is our spring green. So the first version of it was done in a bright green color. This one is done in jas so that you can see it in our own yarns. It's a basic top-down raglan. Even the front shaping of this was done with short rows here as you went. And it's quite a long one, and it's got some waist shaping. But if you're looking for a nice, straightforward, basic raglan in a jas, then this is going to be a really nice version. I think we need to get some kits up on the website, but by the time we put this live, there may be possibly some kits up there. Another item we revisited over the year was the stash dive sweater. During COVID, I knit a stash dive sweater, and we put up a free workshop and video series for it, where I was taking yarn I had and figuring out how to combine them all together. And so I decided I wanted a summer version, but this time I was doing it in leftover linen that I had. So it's oversized, it's boxy, it's top down, and it was just a couple of different linen colors that I had available. So it got knit to the length that I was able to. You can see the stripes that I introduced here where I was blending with helical stripes in between. And it reminded me as I wear it how wearable linen is, that it's all about drape, flow, and it just it just sits on your body so easily. So that is definitely a good one if you got yarn and you don't know how to combine it. The stash dive gives you a nice basic way of putting it together. And here we go. This one is, I should probably have a hanger for this because you can see it a little bit more easily. This is Barak, which is my first cardigan. It's a super chunky cardigan. Here, I put my hands in like this, you can see it. Super chunky cardigan, knit from the top down with yarn overs for the opening so that it's very straightforward. But it's in a new Malabrigo yarn that we've started stocking that is just gorgeous. It's really pleasant to knit with, and it holds up a little better than a lot of other chunky yarns, because the very soft yarns have a tendency of pilling a lot. While you do get a certain amount of pilling with this, it's considerably less than with most of the chunky yarns, and it's got just some great colors. So that is the last of our reknits. As you can see, a little bit of a mix between Magali reknits and a few that I actually worked on as well through the year. And that brings us to our final two patterns of the year. One of them not being released yet, but if you keep watching, you'll get a little hint as to what's going to be releasing in January. So this one is something that got inspired last year from an older pattern that was in a super chunky yarn. But this one is knit in jas, which is an Aran weight cardigan. This is the long cardigan version of Chroi, where you can see it's a double front where you can cross over like this and button it. Big long shawl collar with German short rows. I usually wear it folded over twice. This version is belted and has pockets, and there's a second version in the pattern where if you want a shorter one that can finish along here. So both versions are given with or without pockets, and the belt goes with the long one. We also are running there was a knit together through December with this, as well as a whole series of videos that come along with this. So if you are curious about knitting this or you want a little bit more help, that all comes with the pattern. So the final sweater of the year that I want to share with you is the Duvet Day sweater. This one has just gone on pre-sale yesterday. The pattern will be coming out in January. And this is a yarn that I fell in love with. I fell in love with this in Barcelona last year. It's an alpaca silk blend, and it's a slubby yarn that when you knit it, it's as light as air. So what I did was combine it with little bits of lace, and this yarn is Cumulus, heavy lace weight. So it means that you get this really open drop stitch texture combined with a very fluffy yarn, and it's like wearing a cloud, the whole thing. It's top, let me turn it around this way so you can see it, top down with just very simple circular yokes, crew neck opening, drop shoulders with short rows, and then the rest of it is just a series of lace alternating with drop stitches. But if you want something that you really like knitting for yourself over in the new year, then this is the one that you'll want, because it's just so pleasant to feel. As you can feel, I'm sitting here as though it was a little puppy on my lap, because it's very, very soft. So you'll want your own one. And yeah, I hope you enjoy knitting it as much as I did.